Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me directly through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is an internationally syndicated show because of viewers like you. We're available across all major podcast distributors, and people, I mean it when I say it, we would not be here without you, and it doesn't get missed that that is the case, all right? Please continue to show that support. We are truly indebted to you because of it, and if you continue to follow, we're gonna continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in because we are thoroughly looking forward to showcasing this next guest on our network. And on the line with us today, we have Karla Farach. We're going to be discussing her amazing book, The Adventures of Veggie Man, Food Fight. Available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble. But if you want to gather everything that Karla has in store, people, do yourself a favor. And I promise you, there is a lot that she has in store. Head on over to the personal website, veggieman.com. It is a one-stop shop for everything that Karla has in store. We're going to go in more depth with it during the interview, but I'm telling you, it's something you're going to want to check out. So one more time, that's veggieman.com. People, I'm telling you, this is something you're going to want to add to your shelf. This is going to be a brief interview that we have, so we're just going to capture the essence of it. But I promise you, by the time we've completed here today, you're going to run to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, veggieman.com, and purchase your copies, because you're going to understand how valuable this book truly is and how much you and your children are going to love embarking upon the journey. And without further ado, Karla is the expert. It's her book, she's written it, and she's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So as I said to you before, sit back and strap in. Karla, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Benjamin, and thank you for this distinction of having me in your show. I feel very honored to be your guest, and let's start.
Absolutely. Well, listen.
Thank
you very much. You know how often I ask people how they're doing, and they don't ask me back? Karla, I appreciate that first and foremost. I know this is going to be a good interview solely because that's how we're starting. So thank you very much for that. I'm doing well, better than I deserve, if I'm being honest. And listen, it is a true pleasure, okay? The honor is all ours, and we are loving what you're doing here with your book and with your organization. So we truly feel that you are the absolute embodiment of a person of distinction, and it is a delight to have you with us. Now, before we go into the book, and I know we have a lot of information to cover, Karla, start off by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
So my name is Karla, and I am from the Dominican Republic. I don't know if you know where it is. It's an island in the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. I live here in Connecticut, in Greenwich, Connecticut, and my background is actually business. I went to college for business, and I worked at pharmaceutical companies, but I was always attracted to health and to well-being, and that made me take a lot of certification and classes and really become very knowledgeable about health. And when I had my own kids, I decided to do something with my knowledge. And watching my kids and watching my kids' friends eating and snacking on junk food and all these very bad things put for them, I decided I have to do something about this. Yeah. And that's when I decided to write this book.
Perfect. Karla, thank you very much for that. We are so delighted that you did. And quick side note, I have been to the Dominican Republic. I went there one time and it was an amazing trip. I'm loving that you're from there, and hopefully my wife and I can get a chance to go again because it is a beautiful place. It is fantastic.
Oh, we'd love to have you there. We have a lot of things to show you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we went, it was a short trip. We were only there for about a week. We pretty much stayed on the resort. a good portion of the time, but it was amazing, and we had a tremendous time there. So we'll have to go back there again. But once again, welcome to People of Distinction. Karla, without further ado, let's jump in. The anchor is all about your book, The Adventures of Veggie Man. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So the book is a children's book, and it's a superhero book with a very special superhero, and it's actually an epic battle between the good foods and the junk foods, the bad foods. And there's superhero Veggie Man, and Veggie Man has a troupe of other superheroes that help him actually win the battle.
Love that.
And through the book, there are a lot of, even though it's a children's book and children's books picture books are short, it has a lot of messages. It has messages for children to understand the really why it's so bad to eat a lot of foods like junk foods that is detrimental to their health, but also teaches them that you have to love yourself, and loving yourself is about choosing well, choosing the things that are good for you. Yeah. And that can be a message only for food, but also that can be a message, listen, love yourself and choose the good things for you. Good food, good friends, good company, good decisions. You have the superpower. And that's the main message of the book.
You know, I love that message, Karla, and I think there's so much benefit to it. Because not only is that a great message for children, right? Start them off right and build that foundation. But people, let's call a spade a spade. That's a fantastic message for a lot of adults out there as well. Again, this is a children's narrative, so it's catered towards your children. But I'm telling you, my parents out there, you're going to be able to learn some things, or at least revisit some certain things that maybe you knew at an earlier time, but through everyday pressures, you maybe forgot. Right? And it starts with us.
Yes. And you know, nowadays, I have to tell you, you see the movies out there, there's so much negativity and so many bad superheroes that children are following. Yeah. And I think that bringing some light and positivity to the world in any way, I think is good. I chose to bring this positivity through teaching kids basically, you know, that choosing bad food is not good for them, that it would be detrimental to their health. But, you know, I think all learning has different levels and layers, and that would be the first layer of my message. Yeah. Eat well to be well, right? And I think it's important why I decided to do a children's book, not only because I was watching my children and their friends not eating well, but it's because I think it's very important for children to start eating well from very young. So you can actually train your palate. Yeah. So you can actually start liking fruits and the texture of fruits, or rice and chickpeas and the flavor of it, and, you know, having kale. If you start young, then, you know, you're going to have a very healthy lifestyle, because you're going to like how the good things taste, and you know, that's why children.
You know, Karla, I want to go into inspiration next, and you've already started to go into it in terms of what inspired you to write this particular book, the motive behind it, the message that you wanted to send not only to your children and your children's friends, but also children at large, right? But let's go more in depth with writing itself. Because your background, I believe, if I remember correctly, your background, you said, was in business. So where does the love for creative writing fit into all this? Were there artists that inspired you growing up? Was writing a hobby of yours? Talk to us a little bit more about where that love for writing comes from.
You know, I've always been an avid reader. I can read a lot. I read, like, you know, fictional history, non-fiction. I like reading. I like to watch documentaries better than movies. So I always liked reading. I never wrote, but then when I decided, how can I give this message the proper way? That made me a writer. Yeah. And as I was writing the book, because it's very difficult to give a message with few words, with a short book, right? it's more difficult than writing long books. I really became to love this too, because I'm a thinker, to really put in words the essence of your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then give it life through, because it's a children's book, you give it life through the different personalities, the different characters in the book.
Yeah. I love that. People, again, you got to head on over to Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I mean, this is something that needs to be on your shelf. I already know that I'm convinced. I'm sold, and we have barely scratched the surface. I'm telling you, this is something you're going to want to take advantage of.
I want to tell you also why, as part of the answer of your question, what inspired me to write this book. And I'll tell you, one of the things that inspired me was that I said, I think I need to talk directly to children. The way the politics are and the way regulations are and everything is allowed, everything is allowed to companies to put out any kind of bad ingredients, toxins, all this junk food that is so detrimental to the health. There's, nothing is happening. Nobody is really protecting our children because everything is allowed. I mean, any product is allowed. And any advertisement is allowed, even though we know all these products are not good for our children and they contain ingredients that are not good for them, they're allowed. So I said, since we are not protecting our own children, let me talk to them so they can actually protect their own health. They can take the decisions in their hands, and that's what was another of my inspirations.
Karla, and that's such a great point. I mean, my wife is Mexican, so we take trips periodically. And of course, we're located here in Southern California, so we're very close to Mexico. So we take trips there periodically. And one thing, and I'm sure it's not just Mexico, I'm sure a lot of other countries have similar things, but a lot of the products that are found when you go to grocery stores in Mexico, if they have American products there, right there on the cover of those products in big letters, it'll tell you if something is excessive in sugar, if it's excessive in sodium, or so on and so forth. And listen, I love America. This is where I was born and raised, and we have no intent on leaving. But we understand a lot of the food that is sold in our grocery stores they're not looking out for our best intentions.
Can I tell you, there's some products that and I can talk about this for hours, but I'll just tell you something that is very common. For example, juices or Coca-Colas or, sodas like that have a lot of sugar. All these sodas is the number one cause of obesity in children. The amount because it has so much sugar. You look at the sugar content, and sometimes I can't even. I'm speechless because it's double the amount of what children should consume a day, and that's just one.
Right. And
that's not even mentioning the other ingredients that are so toxic. That are in all these products. So it's just obesity. Children's obesity is a major problem in the U.S. And it's not only in the U.S. It's becoming a major problem all around the world. And nobody's paying attention because the problem is when children become obese in such a young age, it's very difficult for them, one, to get rid of that, two, to change their lifestyle, and three, the problem is that develop other metabolic problems.
Right.
And that's what we have to avoid, because even diabetes in children have increased tremendously, and it's not fair. It's not fair for them. That us adults cannot do more to really regulate this and stop it. And it's really, it's just not fair. It makes me very mad.
It's not fair, Karla, and this is why your book is so important. This is a movement. The things that are taught, not only through your book, but also through your organization, and we're going to get to that next, these are things that we want to start to really put our children on so that they can have a long and bright future. Because as you said, it starts with creating those habits. And this is what your book does. So my next question, because not only is it about your book, but it's also about your organization. You have an organization called Mothers of Health. I would love to go in a little bit more detail. Karla, tell our listening audience about that and what it represents.
So if you go to my website, veggieman.com, basically what I'm trying to do is to give parents or caretakers, even children, tools for them to understand a little bit more why it's not good to consume junk foods, and the why of many other things that are in the wellness world. Why, different information that are very helpful for parents when making decisions. So you can find in my website, you can find articles, and very easy and short articles, because we don't have a lot of attention span. So I make my articles very short and give the exact information they need. And so I have articles, I have recipes, like easy recipes that they can make at home, because I really encourage to get into the kitchen and to cook. And cook simple things. I'm not about like very difficult recipes, because I try to cook well every day, but I'm not the best cook. But it's just that trying to cook things that are healthy instead of having just a lot of processed. The less processed foods you give to your family, the better. So it's basically, how can I be less processed? How can I just use normal foods? Your wife is Mexican, so I'm sure you understand what I mean. Absolutely. Just normal food, food that comes from earth. Absolutely. Foods that that grow in earth. It's not food that was made in a factory. Because the problem with processed foods is that they actually they take out all the good things of the foods, like the natural sugars, the fibers. They take it out to make it a cheap food and to be able to process it, and then they market it as a processed food, and they make a lot of money, and they make people unhealthy. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, and I don't believe in radicalism or I believe in moderation. Yeah. Moderation is key. You can have a little bit of your processed food, but have real food in your plate every day. And that's what's going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Just include real foods for your kids. And that's going to make a big, big difference. Otherwise, when they grow up, they're not going to like anything that is not processed. Yeah. That's what I encourage.
In Karla...
So, on website, so you find recipes, simple recipes, you find interesting articles. You also find some games for young children that you can use for, to play with them. Mm-hmm. You can also find, there is a teacher's guide. I made a teacher's guide for teachers to use in their classroom to help them use the book to teach certain things to the kids from the book. And I just translated the book in Spanish, which is my first language, Spanish, even though I wrote the book in English. I'm very happy. We have Las Aventuras de Veggie.
There you have it. People, I'm telling you, listen, this is something you're going to want to add, and this is something you want to make sure that you teach your children about, because it's going to move mountains for them, and hopefully for you as well. Karla, this has been an absolute pleasure, such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you, Benjamin.